Yo, this is Deontay the Bronx Bummer Wild, the WBC heavyweight champion of the world. And I'd like to give a big shout out to CJ Goodfellow of Sports TV. Bomb Squad, baby.
All right, we're going to talk about a few topics here. All right. And one of the topics we're going to talk about is Bob Arum told the Athletics, and I meant to get to this yesterday, but I couldn't get to it, that he is not selling tickets in the United States. Therefore, and I'll link the source in the description or the source link, he may take some of his fighters on the road, which he has already done that, taking Jose Ramirez and Victor Postal in conjunction with PBC, with TGB Promotions, to China. All right. He also said there's a plan to take Bud to South Africa. He said they may take Carl Frampton, back to Belfast versus somebody else. So Bob said he's struggling with tickets, and then there's already an agreement where J.Rock versus Rosario is going down for a hometown fight for him in Philadelphia, which I reported that like almost 3 weeks ago, maybe even a month ago. I told y'all who J.Rock's next opponent was, right? And there's agreement between J.Rock and the winner of Tony Harrison and Charlo 2. So you'll have a 3-belt unification fight from PBC coming at you next year. So let's talk about both of these things. Real talk, let's talk about the junior middleweight division. Now, J.Rock said he's happy that Haymon McGuire is no longer babysitting the 154-pound WBO belt. To my knowledge today, he hasn't vacated it officially yet. So Patrick Cicera and Carlos Adames are fighting for the interim belt. All right? And I don't think he's aware of that Jaime didn't fully vacate the belt. But he's fighting Gary Spike O'Sullivan in this Alamo Dome, I believe, in San Antonio next January. It was supposed to be Michael Zafra, but Michael Zafra had a legal obligation to rematch Jeff Horn. But if he doesn't realize, the WBO is a top-ranked belt. Now, Al Haymon can make a hell of an offer to Patrick Cicera, or he can make a hell of an offer to Carlos Adames, the winner, if they get upgraded to full WBO title holder, and they may come over there. But in my opinion, I heard that they possibly could be matching Adames and Bud up if PBC don't throw no bones their way. So maybe they can make a deal, with Bud and get him some welterweights opponents, and then they can get a undisputed clash with J.Rock Harrison or Jamel Charlo for them if they can make that deal. But like I said before, the myth that PBC and Al Haymon can't work. At PBC, Al Haymon and Bob Arum can't work together. That's just simply a myth. They're playing, depending on if Andy Ruiz win, and I'm gonna do a review tomorrow of Andy Ruiz and AJ. The gloves are off, all right. But if Andy Ruiz win, it's a situation where you'll see Konalki and Puev fight for a vacant IBF belt that vacated for Andy Ruiz. Andy Ruiz will have to go fight Alexander Usyk. And then you will see an IBF title fight between Qdoba, who just be Luis Ortiz, is what we call him because I can't pronounce his name, and Sergey Lipiets for the IBF full title or the interim. Is still being worked out on what Errol Spence would do with his titles, all right? But PBC and Top Rank, long story short, are making a whole card together. So the myth that they don't work together and Bob Arum ain't playing fair, Bob Arum don't have a choice because Bob Arum not doing so good in the ticket sales. Now, I told you guys, Bob Arum hadn't sold no tickets. Eddie Hearn was actually telling the truth that like 300 or 400 people attended Lomachenko and Anthony Corolla, all right? And then also it was another fight. I think he did Berterbi and Gosvick. A lot of people didn't show up to that fight neither. So they struggling selling tickets and they struggling with viewership as well. And I will get to Bob Arum some more, but they struggling. So he's at Al Haymon's mercy as far as needing to work with him, but they just don't want Bud and Errol Spence. All right, they fear Bud that much, and that's the God honest truth. And I've been saying that, but at the same time, I think it's good that they got an agreement for J.Rock and Charlo Harrison to fight each other. Now, you never know with Harrison and Charlo. Somebody can get cut. It can end in a technical draw or whatever the situation may be. So we got to get through that fight with a clear victor. You never know. It might have to be a trilogy, or they might have to square it up again off a technical draw or a cut, whatever the situation may be. But at the end of the day, I like that they give clarification to the division So they get pretty much for PBC because they don't recognize the WBO. And once again, Saturday, they showed that, only announcing Andy Ruiz as the IBF and the Super WBA champion of the heavyweight division, the title holder of the world of that division. But at the end of the day, they have clarification. You will have a 3-belt title holder that will be recognized as the best at 154. I don't care about, the hype train behind Carlos Adames, or people saying to share the best. We know who the 3-belt, the best in this division is. But, at the end of the day, to look at it, for J-Rock, I think, he may be favored versus both of those guys, Tony Harrison and Jamel Charlo. Some people say, well, he got knocked out by Jamal Charlo, but that doesn't define his career. You know what I'm saying? He did get dropped by a jab and caught slipping, but Jamal Charlo was a tremendous puncher. And I think J-Rock was, premature. I'm not going to say premature. He was, what's the word I'm looking for? He was immature in his approach to that fight. Now, a lot of people probably wasn't watching boxing. People, get on YouTube to exploit boxing fans and push propaganda or be part of the dirty street gang and don't know shit about boxing, all right? But at once upon a time, J-Rock was a fiery guy. He was, he was accusing Jamal of doing steroids and saying Jamal wasn't that good and saying he was going to knock Jamal out or whatever he was saying. Every press conference they was doing, he was blasting them, and he got humbled, all right? He got humbled quick, fast, in a hurry. He was doing some good things versus Jamal, got dropped by a jab, and then he got knocked out by a 1 in a million punch by Jamal Charlo. And you know what? He got humbled. So he got to take that L, but it didn't define his career. That's what you got to understand. He became a better fighter. He built himself back up. He no longer the same guy. And Harrison and Jamel, they don't fight like Jamal Charlo, And I believe J-Rock being a slick guy, I think he's going to take advantage of Jamel Charlo identity crisis, thinking that he a slugger, all right? Thinking that he a slugger and not a boxer. If Jamel go back to boxing and make some aggression in, he wouldn't have no problem learning to cut the ring off, beating Tony Harrison and beating Julian J-Rock Williams. You know what I'm saying? Talent for talent, Jamel Charlo is a better fighter than both of them, okay? But him fighting with Derrick James and fighting, as this guy that's trying to mass himself as a monstrous puncher, that ain't him. And I think if he sit there and he try to really load up and try to get knocked out versus Tony Harrison, he may end up getting knocked out. He may end up getting a knockout, or he may end up winning. He may end up losing. But versus Julian J-Rock Williams, J-Rock gonna eat him up. All right? That's just the bottom line. He can't fight like that versus J-Rock. J-Rock is more calculated now. He more mature now. He more seasoned now. And I think J-Rock will beat Jamel Charlo in the fashion that he's fighting right now. All right? If he go back to fundamentals and he go back to letting his shots flow and boxing on his toes, I don't think he's a better junior middleweight in the world than Jamel Charlo. Now, Tony Harrison, J-Rock, that's a good fight because Tony Harrison got the power to put J-Rock out, and J-Rock don't have the power, not necessarily that Jamel carrying or that Jared Hurd carried or even Willie Nelson, even though he got tired versus Willie Nelson. People say Tony Harrison ain't got a chin. That ain't true. Tony Harrison don't have no stamina. Stamina's been his problem. And he got tired down the stretch versus Jamel Charlo. Don't have him losing all the championship rounds, the 10th, 11th, 12th to be exact. He started getting tired, and Charlo being over anxious and over committing and not calming down and cutting the ring off and placing his shots is the reason why Jamel Charlo lost that fight. Had he calmed down and punched his shots, he wouldn't need no judges. But with J-Rock ain't that puncher. J-Rock is aggressive, and he can fight at, pretty much all three ranges there. But Tony Harrison, possesses a problem. He can punch, all right? But J-Rock showed that he can get on the inside. It'll be a funny fight. You know what I'm saying? For me, just to break down and see how that would go. Because J-Rock fight is totally different from Jamel Charlo. He more calculated, but at the end of the day, J-Rock can be clipped. And Tony Harrison got the power to clip him. But I think, and I like Tony Harrison. He from the D. I'm going to ride with him all day, but I got to keep it real. I might have to favor J-Rock in that fight slightly. All right, I think J-Rock might be the best junior middleweight out there, but the question is to answer is that, was the Jared Hurd fight a product of Jared Hurd still being injured and, going through it with his trainer and not being on the same accord? So that's to be answered about that as well, too. Okay. But other than that, I think it's a good thing. I think J.Rock should get past Rosario. But, and we'll see what happened with Charlo and Harrison. All right. Let's talk about Bob Arum to close it out. Now, Bob Arum is going around telling the Athletics that he may take his top-ranked show in the world because ticket sales ain't doing good. What's so funny about it? Jose Ramirez is supposed to be a ticket seller in Fresno, and his management team was blasting Regis Progress for not being able to sell tickets in Louisiana, right? But at the end of the day, obviously it seemed like Jose Ramirez tickets ain't really selling that good in Fresno or turning over a profit with him going over to China. And now Bob Arum talking about he might take Bud over to South Africa or something in that nature. So I think AJ and Eddie Hearn really paved the way for, for some of these boxers to go abroad. All right. You see Floyd Mayweather possibly fighting Khabib, and I did a video earlier on that, in Saudi Arabia. Okay. So, that's nothing new because you see the Migos and a lot of musical acts, they go to Saudi Arabia and they make more money there than they probably do doing a whole music tour. And that's because Saudi Arabia got some of the most richest people there. Now, Saudi Arabia don't report their money. All right? They got trillionaires walking around there, so they can pay for what they want to pay. But, it's unfortunate that Bob Arum, he can't really pay his fighters what he need to pay them because he don't know how to promote a fight. He don't sell no tickets. And it baffles him to know how, Al Haymon is able to turn over a profit, which, Al Haymon ticket sales don't be doing that good, but he do better than Bob Arum. All right. And they give away a lot of tickets and cop a lot of tickets through the casinos as well. But you know what? Bob Arum had it coming. He been playing dirty a lot of the time, stealing money from the fighters, taking a ton of money off top, hidden fees and hidden agendas inside that contract or whatever. So with him having to take his fighters abroad, could Top Rank be in trouble? His stepson, Todd DeBuff, is supposed to take over the company. James Prince and Andre Ward is supposed to have a stake in it, but he don't know how to promote, and they don't know how to promote these fighters right now and how to sell these tickets. So the reason, Al Haymon is able to sell the tickets that he can sell is because Al ain't trying to open up new markets, like Bob Arum is. They fighting in Tucson, they fighting in Fresno. Al Haymon, know he's created a pipeline. When shit get funny, I can always go to Brooklyn. If Vegas ain't got nothing for us, LA ain't got nothing, I know I can go to Brooklyn and I know I'm going to sell 10,000 tickets for a solid fight card, okay? I know how I go. And if Brooklyn don't jump, then you know what? We go to Texas and do something. If they don't jump, we go somewhere in LA. If they don't jump, we go somewhere in Vegas. So he got to really lock down on how to promote the fights and how to get his fighters to notoriety and how to sell tickets. That's why he don't like doing stuff out the norm, but steadily he opened up new arenas and stuff. He letting the fighters fight at home. He letting J.Rock do it at the La Crusoe Center, where Berturbia goes. He gonna sell more tickets there. He letting Tank fight in Atlanta. He let Tank fight in Baltimore. So they kind of starting to now really open it up to the possibilities of doing new venues. But Bob may be in a bit of trouble, because they chose not to do an opening press conference for Bud and the Mean Machine. And I guess he was on the Boxing Voice, I heard, and he explained that they're going to put more money down the stretch run for the fight. And I think he mean basically the week of the fight, they're going to run more promos and start doing some promoting right around with the Heisman. But, right now his streaming numbers, I'm not going to say streaming numbers, they're probably not doing well as well. But his TV numbers on ESPN ain't doing well. So he got to figure out what's wrong. But this is why he working with Eddie Hearn. This is why he willing to work with PBC and do a February 22nd pay-per-view card, because he has no other choice. And I think it's time for all, and everybody hurting individually. Okay, the PBC not doing so good. If they was, they wouldn't be begging Mayweather to come back. Okay, all these dudes need to work together and give the fans the best fights. Now, what's really happening is it's to the point where it's getting destroyed. They not making a profit no more because fans are tired of the bullshit fights. So now they really got to put the best fights on and no more hiding. Guys, and now it's going to get to the point where they got to put the best fights on. Now they got to work with each other just to survive. So in the next year or two in boxing, you're going to see a lot of changes. And if they don't work together and they don't continue to put the best fights on, then they're going to continue to lose a lot of money. So you're going to see these dudes start working together. But, if Crawford got to go to South Africa, I think that's a shame. You know what I'm saying? And if, Ramirez going over to China, I think that's a shame. That they got to leave the country, just to sell tickets. Give them better opponents. Promote the fight a lot better, Bob. But that's something that Bob Arum got to figure out. A lot of times, Bob Arum kind of remind me this as a promoter. He kind of remind me of an artist that don't make it in the next era of rap. All right, you had Run DMC. They really couldn't transition into the 90s. You know what I'm saying? And through the 90s, you had a few guys who couldn't transition to the early 2000s. Okay, Dr. Dre was able to make that transition. Snoop was. You had a few good, but you had guys that couldn't make that transition into the early 2000s. You had guys in the early 2000s who couldn't make that transition to this decade of music, right? But every once in a while, you got a guy like Jay-Z who can jump decades. You got a guy like LL Cool J that can jump decades and guys like that. And right now, Bob Arum is shown to be like one decade out of his truth. Okay, that's the problem. Bob Arum is one decade out of his truth, and he got to find a way to reinvent himself, kind of like what LL did in the 90s, where he really tried to be a rough and tough guy. But then, he had to reinvent himself because that didn't fit him. And then he kind of made his way through the 90s. But, we'll see what happened. But these dudes got to work together. And I think in the next, 1 to 2 or 3 years, you're going to start seeing the best fight the best. Because now, what's happening now, when they inflated boxing, the audience didn't inflate, with the money that was put into the fighters. This is basically like competing with your homeboy. You had all these dudes like the A-Team, and you had all these gangs back in the day, and the Juice Crew, and these dudes would probably compete with each other and go rack for rack. You know what I'm saying? But at a certain point in time, when money was funny, they had to reinvent themselves, or they had to go do something else or switch the hustle up to get their money up to continue to compete, or they might have to work together to get their bread back up. And then, then they'd be flashy. And with Bob Arum, it's at the point where, now it's time to work with each other, to put boxing back where it need to be. If not, UFC gonna sneak up, or the fans gonna start to leave. So the money they put into the fighters haven't gave a return. Okay, so now they gotta join forces to make the best fight the best, all right, to get that money in return. So they noticing that fans not just going for the okie doke no more. They want the premier fights, and you'll start seeing them get made as soon as money getting funny. So at the same time, man, if they got to send Crawford out the country, it's funny, but at the end of the day, PBC ain't doing that much better. They gave away like 1,000, at least 5,000 tickets for the Earl and Sean fight. They talking about Earl did 16,000. I think it was more closer to 8,000 to 9,000. To be quite honest, but they comped a lot of tickets and gave some away. But PBC ain't doing financially well. Fox kind of stabilized them, but Mayweather coming back is kind of going to get them out the rest of the hole. But this is why you seeing Gary Russell fighting Tank, or fighting, Leo Santa Cruz fighting Tank and Gary Russell. This is why you see they try to do Errol and Danny. This is why you see them. They already have an agreement between Mel and Tony Harrison winner and J.Rock. Because, ticket sales not doing good and money kind of funny over there. So they trying to give you the premier fights, but eventually everybody start working together for boxing to survive. So we'll see where it go. Goodfellas Sports TV, one of my longer videos here. Don't forget we on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. You can reach out to the email if you got business question, inquiry, sponsorship, video requests. Hopefully everybody enjoyed their Turkey Day, man. You want to make a donation, link subscription. Other than that, check out our playlist. Boxing news, boxing rumors, welterweight, heavyweight, middleweight, prospect, spotlight list. We got the whole 9, NBA, NFL, and I do appreciate everybody for checking in. But hey, let me know what you guys think. The earliest I may go live might be Friday, possibly Saturday. We got to fight Tyler McCray, Carl Frampton, so tune in for that. And I forget who the main event is. One time for the one time, Goodfellas Sports TV.